ऑन कर दिया? हाँ? I think Dr. Qureshi may like to start.
Okay, wonderful, right? So I think now we have enough number of participants and we can formally begin the session. May I request all the participants for a time being that if they can mute their mics, you know. Assalamu alaikum, namaste, and good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm greetings to all the participants. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
So I'm Muhammad Ali Qureshi from SARC Energy Center, is the program coordinator for this 5 days online training on power purchase agreement for renewable energy projects, and I will also be moderating this today's session. So, ladies and gentlemen, this exclusive training is organized by SARC Energy Center, Islamabad. As I've noticed that there are certain participants who were not being able to join the yesterday's session. So although I have sent the emails to all the participants, sharing with them the links recorded for the recordings and PPTs for the yesterday's session, if anyone haven't received it yet, they can simply type it down into the chat box, their emails, and I will definitely revert back to them. So yesterday we discussed about the importance of competitive markets in SARC region in increasing RE scenarios, and we also discussed on the different models of RPPAs and strategies for design and regulation. So perhaps because there are some new participants who have joined us and they were not available yesterday. So if I need some volunteers, if any of the participants, they can just quickly summarize that what we discussed yesterday and what were the key takeaways or any sort of feedback. The floor is open. You can raise your hands and you can just simply pitch in, and tell us about what were your learnings from the yesterday session. So I need volunteers. So what does that mean? I mean, if that means that either the participants, they understood everything or they haven't understood anything, So please give me your feedback. I need some volunteers. Please, if you can tell me that what were your key learnings or takeaways from the yesterday session. We want this session to be
Dr.
very
Qureshi, there is
interactive.
a third option also. There is a shyness also.
Yes,
Agitation.
exactly. But
That's
so
third
they're
option also.
free. They're free to say anything. I have no restrictions or something here. So if there's anything coming up from the participants, is always good. So okay, we have Ms. Shahira Tahir. Please, ma'am, can you unmute yourself and introduce yourself to the audience and go ahead, please summarize it.
Hello everyone, my name is Shahira and I am working as research associate with a research tank here in Pakistan. We work on renewable energy transitions research work, and yeah, yesterday's session was really fruitful in many ways, and especially the first half was about the wholesale power markets, and I have understood that the transition to wholesale power markets is not a very easy task. You can go about it in different phases, and I understand that Pakistan is right now in the intermediary stage. We have the single buyer model, in which so I think we have unbundled our power supply cycle, but still we have to make the move towards the wholesale power markets. And the Rhythm Singh professor, he's rightly set out the preconditions for the transitions, which were the financial health of the financial financial health of the power sector, having the appropriate or adequate regulatory system in place, and then do we have enough competition available in the generation sector? How are the quality of our institutions? Do we have integrity? Do we have a sound legal system or not? And overall, the economic and political conditions of the country, are they feasible towards this transition? Yeah,
Thank you so much, Ms. Sharia, for summarizing the day one learnings. And is there anyone else who would like to pitch in or add to it? I can see a hand from Saeed Faizan Ali Shah.
Hello, Ali Qureshi. This is Syed Faizan Ali. I'm a renewable energy expert. I've been working with different organizations and setting up power plants of distributed nature and large scale as well. So unfortunately, I could not attend the first day's session, but I think it's a great step forward by SARC Energy in keeping in view that CTBCM is about to be launched in Pakistan next year, where we would be seeing a lot of power purchase agreements between bilateral parties, and specifically speaking of renewable energies. So I think this 5-day session would be of great importance, keeping in view Pakistan's power sector. And probably
I
for
think
other power
that
sectors
comes
as
for
well.
all the SARC member states basically.
Exactly.
And another thing, I mean, yesterday one of the participants has asked a question about this forex rates. I mean, the impact of changes in the forex rates on the PPA. And our trainer, Professor Himanshu Jain, he has provided some really useful links for this in order to address this question. So perhaps we'll be sharing that with you in the chat box, and you can access this later on. So moving ahead with the day two session. For today, we have lined up really some interesting sessions, and the first technical session for today for day two will actually be on mechanisms for analyzing and negotiating PPA, and that includes the market price floor, capacity, buy down option, assignment rights, seller security, availability guarantee, production guarantees, and season guarantees. So in order to present it, we have with us our first presenter, Professor Anand Kumar. Just I would like to give his brief intro. Professor Anand Kumar is currently working as a professor of practice in electrical engineering department at Indian Institute of Technology, Gandhinagar, Gujarat. Prior to this, he worked as a chairperson for Gujarat Electricity Regulatory Commission and Meghalaya State Electricity Commission. He also served Uttarakhand Electricity Regulatory Commission as an acting chairman and a member. He holds a Master's of Business Administration and Finance degree and also a graduate degree in Electrical Engineering from IIT Roorkee. So out of his key assignments, he was associated in unbundling and restructuring of power sector in Uttar Pradesh. So thank you so much for joining us for today's session. So I would like to formally hand over the floor to you, and you can begin with your presentation. But before that, I just want to say that all the participants, if you have questions, we can have this question answering session once the presentation is finished. Or even if you have some important questions and you think that it could be addressed within the presentation, so you can just simply write it down in the chat box, and we'll certainly try to, the presenter will certainly try to address it. So thank you, sir. The floor is over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mohammed, and very, very good afternoon to everyone. And we are thankful that IIT Roorkee has, started this kind of initiative to make a detailed, presentation on certain subjects which are of relevance in the today's power market. Before I start my presentation, I would like to make it very clear that I am a regulator throughout, because I have a regulatory experience of more than, I think, 22 years in the country of in India. So my perspective is little different, not very related to the power market in European country or USA country. But I feel, what I have read through the literature, I feel that your SAARC countries are more or less similar to the Indian conditions. As you know that India, we have a power exchange market. But last day I was trying to see that whether any power market is available in the SAARC countries or not. I could not find any country to have a power market. But if you can, correct me if I am wrong. So what happened that when you don't have a power market, then the liquidity of your power purchases are not there. Your market is supposed to be illiquid. And in that scenario, only situation remains that there should be a bilateral contract between two parties, or maybe some, state versus private parties contract. In India, what happened, this renewable energy was, taken up in the last 7 to 8 years in a speed, because Indian commitment is very, very ambitious and very high. And we are also reaching to that commitment, because we have thought that we will reach by 175 gigawatt by 2022. But due to COVID, I think the 1 year is shifted. So by 23, it is quite possible. And I am sure that we will reach about 175 gigawatt. And out of 175 gigawatt, about 60 gigawatt is from, solar, and rest from the wind or so. So my, experience, I'm more comfortable if you have a PPA of your bilateral nature, or like in India, we have a PPA with the distribution company and a developer. Now, the regulatory regime in the India is like that Indian regulator needs to give approval to all the PPAs who are being done between the state DISCOM, who is serving the consumers of the state, and the independent power producer or power developers. So most of the PPA which I have seen in my career, it's all fixed nature. Means the price is fixed. There is no variability. It is not linked with the market. It is not floating. It is only fixed in nature. So our experience more or less is with the fixed. But since you have given me this assignment, I try to read more and more literature on the European and USA. It is quite possible that India, the new green term ahead market, which we have recently started, I think last year, it may start functioning well, and then it is quite possible that we may go for some virtual kind of PPA. At the most, we have only physical PPA where energy is bought at a fixed rate. But yes, in future, it can be a virtual market where your physical, physical energy is not bought, but there is a kind of derivative. So that derivative, how it operates, I will try to, give some ideas to you, but I will request all of the participants to go through the literature and see that. And if there is any question, we can definitely answer it if I will be able to do that. So I will share my presentation, which I have made, and let me show that. Is it visible to you, everyone?
Yes.
Is it visible?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good.
And
Okay,
Professor
okay.
Anand
Thank
Kumar,
you.
Professor Anand
Yeah.
Kumar, this has been already shared with them through this one. So
Okay.
because they could read it early, so for that
Yes.
reason, the presentation has been shared in the morning. Thank you.
Very good. Nothing has changed except maybe some correction has been made. Otherwise, it's
So we
okay.
didn't receive. I am Hasna
Okay,
Bhushan,
then-
Nation Secretary.
Then
Proud
it will be shared. I have already shared
the
Good
presentation.
morning.
So
So let me start the presentation, and we will try to, as Mohammed told us that, okay, question answer can be in the last. So I will try to finish it. This presentation is a little, lengthy, but don't worry about it. I will try to finish it in time, and wherever necessary, I will, stop and try to explain you further. Otherwise, I feel that these are, basic things, and you must be knowing about it. So, as the objective of the presentation, after this presentation, I feel that you will come to know about the importance of the renewable energy PPA and why it is so different from your, conventional PPAs, and what are the terms and conditions which are, relevant at this point of time. Before this, I would like to tell you that renewable energy project is very, very different than your conventional power projects. In conventional power project, it depends upon the fuel and you have the control over generation. But in the renewable energy project, this is a variable kind of project where the energy is produced whenever there is a natural, resources like wind or solar light, sunlight. So there is a, different kind of scheduling. So here the scheduling and, dispatch of energy is very, very, critical. It is not so that you can predict it. Yeah. Somebody wants to say something? Okay, so in this program or this presentation, after this presentation, you will be little, learn about the examination of PPA, what are the critical areas where you can go for it, and what kind of risk, where the risk allocation matrix can be shared between the buyer and seller. So these are the outline. So let us start with the RPPA versus traditional PPA. Renewable energy PPA versus traditional PPA. A power purchase agreement is a broad term, covers many types of contract involving the purchase of energy between two parties. This is very common. If you want to purchase anything to ensure the benefit of, a certain cash flow, there is a PPA. The PPA gives, risk-free, situation to the seller to get its project funded from some banks or so, because no banks in India will fund any renewable energy project until unless they have a valid PPA with a DISCOM or with a buyer. Buyers means corporate buyer. So there are two type of buyer in India. One is your state DISCOM, which purchases energy, renewable energy in terms to meet out their RPO. RPO is a term which is commonly used in India, renewable purchase obligation, which is set by the regulator of that state or maybe the country. And then that, in India, like we have a 17% RPO, means for a distribution business, out of the total energy consumed, they have to buy at least 17% of that from the renewable sources. Now, renewable sources we have divided into two categories, solar and non-solar. So the solar RPO is different. It is about, I think it is about 7%, while the non-solar, which includes wind and biomass or waste to energy projects, it is we call it non-solar. So it is about 10%. So about 17% of our energy is coming from the renewable sources, while the capacity in India is about 25 to 35%. It varies from state to state. So, but our plan to reach to 50% maybe by 2030. So India has a quite ambitious target, and maybe in near future, all the countries, due to COP26, you have recently read about it, that most of the countries have to go for certain kind of, a non-zero or zero emission situation. So in that situation, there is a liability on the DISCOM as well as on the corporate buyers, because renewable energy obligation is to be enforced on every sector which is using energy. So in that scenario, this PPA will play a good role or important role. So a renewable PPA is a long-term purchase of energy, and REC, we call it REC. Maybe this is a kind of renewable energy credit, which is a kind of a green component of that. So renewable energy PPA is different from your conventional PPA in terms of two things. One is the variability, where there is a variability in generation. And the second thing is that there is no fuel. And the third important thing is that it has a green component. So In India also we have two components. One is physical energy, one is green component. So the rates for both are different. If you want to sell it without a green component, then you can sell it at the average power purchase price. Then there is no competitive bidding or there is no, feed-in tariff kind of situation. But yes, if you want to get it approved your project as a green power projects and you want to sell it in the market, REC only, you sell your energy in, to any buyer, but REC can be traded at energy exchange for which the rates are determined by the central regulator of the country. So we have a floor prices, we have a forbearance price, means floor and ceiling price are given by the regulator, and in between it can be traded in the energy exchange. So we can say that India is ready to go for the virtual PPA, but yes, at moment we don't have this kind of PPA, we have only physical PPA today. So a traditional power purchasing for facilities from wholesale or retail provider are operation based, and depending on the location, maybe utility provided price fixing mechanism, a wholesale purchaser or something else. These traditional PA may be short term. Yeah. Would you like to say something? Is it okay?
I may request the participants that if they can mute your mic, please, so that we cannot have any distortion for the presentation.
Okay. So traditional PPA, as you know, that traditional PPA are short term or long term, but mostly the renewable energy projects are having a long term PPA because the funding agencies or the funding institutions are more, inclined towards the stable cash stream, because in India also and maybe in SAARC countries, the financing is normally done by the public institutions. There is no private banks, or private banks are there to use their pension funds or their equity fund for the funding of that projects. So a renewable power purchase may be different below the market rates. It depends upon your PPA. So so as I told you, there is a difference between RPPA and a virtual PPA. Physical PPAs are most commonly used by the buyer having heavy and concentrated load. In India, we have only physical PPA. Or maybe in SAARC country, I understood that there are physical PPAs and virtual PPA are still not there. But yes, when this green power obligation will be enforced on the corporate buyers, then there is a need to go for a kind of derivatives, which are nothing but the virtual PPA. So a physical PPA is structured as follows. The buyers buy renewable energy directly from a seller. In a typical renewable energy PPA, the developer builds and owns and operates the renewable energy project and sells the output to the buyer of a specified delivery point. The buyer takes title. It means that the buyer has the title on the physical energy as well as on the green component, which we call it renewable energy certificate, and somewhere it is called renewable energy credits. So this depends upon the law and the regulation of that country or the state where that consumer is residing. So if this is that, okay, suppose like for example, like in India, we have a RPO mechanism. Now this RPO mechanism is enforceable on the distribution company as well as on the corporate buyers who have their captive power. Now suppose one has a captive power of its own, then also it has to require the renewable energy credit. Otherwise, there will be a penalty mechanism where each violation of the occurrence of imbalances will be charged from their corporate buyers. So virtual PPA is a financial contract without energy. The buyer does not receive or take legal title to the electricity, and in this way, it is a virtual. In a virtual power purchase agreement, a buyer agreed to purchase a project output and also associated REC at a set fixed price. The developer then liquidates the energy at the market pricing and passes the revenue through to the buyer. They say that suppose if I fix a kind of strike price or a fixed price with the seller, and then the seller will sell the energy from the renewable energy project to the market, and if the market is better than your price, means the fixed price which you have set, or strike price, then the revenue difference of that revenue will be passed on to the buyer. But the seller is, comfortable with the fixed stream of revenue, which is fixed with the buyer. So, the difference of the market and the fixed price is normally passed on to the consumer. If it is a gap, suppose there is a price is down, market price is down, so the difference of that will be given to the seller. The seller is comfortable, the buyer take the risk. Okay, buyer take the risk that if market fluctuate, then the difference of that will be passed on to the seller. The buyer agreed to pay the seller a fixed price for renewable energy delivered to a specific point, typically a market hub or project bus bar. This fixed price set by the VPPA in the guaranteed price, the developer will receive no less or no more. So that is kind of comfort. The risk is taken by the buyer. Now, why PPA is so important? PPA is the heart of the renewable energy project, and all financing and operation are based on it. Because you know that whenever you do the PPA, you need money, and to run that project, you need money. So for both the finances, we are dependent upon the financial institutions. In India, we have 30-70 ratio, but yes, it depends upon your country or maybe the law of your land, that basically all projects are being funded by the financial institutions. So if you have a power purchase agreement, a fixed volume and a fixed price for number of years, then that stream is fixed. So why the funding agency are more comfortable with this kind of document. We call it the power purchase agreement. It is legal and a commercial document, and it is binding on both the seller and buyer, and one can go to the court if that violation of any terms and condition of the PPA is done. So without signing a PPA, project cannot take off. And if you go through a sample PPA, then you see that all of the subsequent to the signing of that PPA, there are a lot of conditions which have to be met by the seller. So if he does not complete that within that time schedule, then there is a possibility that there is a termination of the project, and that is a kind of legal action, and the obligation on the producer to generate the electricity is more enforced, and there will be a kind of liquidated damages maybe charge from that seller. Similarly, if you have a commitment to the pay to the price of the and you don't able to take off that power, then it is your risk. You have to pay the price, minimum price, which is strike through or which is finalized between two parties. So that is the kind of a legal binding on both the seller and buyer. So PPA shows credit worthiness of the project. PPA secures a healthy revenue stream. Economics of the project depends upon the terms and condition of the PPA. So terms and condition are very important. We will try to figure out those terms and conditions which I feel is very important, like change of law. Change of law is a very important condition. If there is any change in the country's law, like suppose if you have increased the duties, import duties, or some kind of duties you have enforced, like we have enforced to check the import, we have enforced certain safeguard duties on the solar panels, then that kind of change in law will have an effect on the PPA. If you do not consider that that situation, then it is quite possible there will be a huge loss to the seller. Or if there is a reduction in the cost, or there is some change of law in your country, maybe sometime international laws also change, but most of the courts in India has not taken that as a change of law. So this is also to be careful that you have to learn from the experience of different power purchase agreement which have defaulted. It is very important to see that defaulted power purchase agreement which give you a kind of wisdom that in future we will be more careful. Similarly, there is a force majeure clause. Force majeure means if this is beyond the control of the seller or beyond the control of the buyer, and there is a situation like COVID or so, it will be automatically passed through. So that situation has to be considered now, because earlier I have seen more PPA like they have said there is an earthquake or there is a fire, But there is no kind of pandemic. When pandemic comes, then there is also, you know, situation that your construction is stopped, your labor, you know, cannot work. So that kind of situation will give more, you know, cost overrun to the project. And that kind of risk is also very important to see when you decide a PPA. So currently regulatory environment of that country is very important. You have to be careful. So why now you know, in every corporate or in every, you know, utilities, there is a cell which is responsible for the regulatory affairs units, because one has to understand what is the regulatory environment of that country where, you know, going to take that power, or you are going to have a PPA with the parties. So that also include the provision to look in the price and quantity. As I told you, the volume and the price and the period. Mostly three things are very important in a PPA that has to be fixed. And if it is fixed, then the comfort to the, you know, funding agency, to the seller, and even to the buyer also, because you never know the situation in the power market in future. This gives a, you know, kind of comfort that, okay, at this price we have taken at least risk-free, you know, investment, and if the prices go upward, then we are comfortable with the fixed kind of things. Now, buyer and seller to consult experienced consultant. So this is my advice that, okay, this is a very, you know, technical job. One has to know about the technicality of these things, because drafting and executing a PPA is very important. Like technical examination, like performance of that plant, whether this is technically fit or not, this is also a subject of, you know, subject of examination. So these things are to be, you know, seen. Negotiation and discussion as are the key terms. Adopting the RPPA to the type of RE use is cleverly handled helpful strategies. Power may be sold through a RPPA to a local utility. As I told you, this can be, you know, done through a local utility or a state utility where, you know, power purchase agreement is done. So let me go through the various forms of RPPAs. These are determined by the source of RE harness. As I told you, there are mostly solar and wind projects are very common. Rest are also there, but that not to that extent. Mostly we are having solars and wind projects. Now, wind project is also not very popular to those areas where there is no wind potential. So, like in coastal region, the wind energies are more popular, and the solar, you know, is overall everywhere it is popular. So, solar is most important these days. Now, financing of the project delineated in the contract specified relevant dates of the project. So, project dates is very important. It means at what time you do the term, sign the PPA, and this is the time when you have to see that, okay, future, what will be the future? Suppose, for example, now this situation which have came to the COP26, you see that there is a lot of potential for the solar in coming years. So it means that the technology will also play an important role, and your economy of scale will also do. So that in that situation, it is quite possible the rates may come down. Rates may come down. If the rates may come down, then if you are going for a fixed kind of PPA, fixed rate kind of PPA, then there is a possibility that in future, if the prices in the market goes down, then there is a chance that, okay, you will be in loss. So you can go for a floating kind of, you know, PPA, which is linked with the market with a ceiling. Ceiling means upper floor and floor, cap and the floor price. So that kind of, you know, innovation can be done at this stage. And this is the right time that, okay, SARC has taken up this subject, and we can know more about the, you know, innovative ideas where PPA can be signed with certain kind of, you know, foreseen situations which have coming in the next few years. So rate for electricity and economic incentive to both the parties, different type of concessions. These are the, you know, a kind of what type of project it is, whether it will be a built on operate or built on operation, or it can transfer to the buyer. So to consider available model of multi-currency loans, this is also very important. If you are going for a multi-currency loan, then there is a foreign exchange risk. So foreign exchange risk, you need hedging. Now, whether this hedging will be, because every hedging is a cost. So whether this cost is included in this package or not, because now what happened in India, we are mostly going for the competitive bidding model. there is no bilateral models are there. So we are more focusing our PPA to the corporate buyer models. Mean the corporate, if they buy energy from the, in this renewable energy projects or to the developer, then there are some innovative models which you can learn from this exercise. So these models are already available in many countries. Usually by using such financial models, financing institutions evaluate any proposed RPPA in order to identify. There are various tools also. I was looking at the site, then I have found that there are tools to examine your conditions of your PPA, risk allocation of your PPA, and you can analyze different situation. So that in that scenario, I think the PPA is now being more relevant, because we are shifting from fixed PPA to now a kind of a floating PPA or a virtual PPA, where the REC is more important than, green component is more important because of the RPO. Now, key elements of a PPA are terms and period of extensions. Means, suppose if I sign a PPA today, then there will be a period of, up to what period it will be in force. So term is very important in a PPA, and you can extend that period, because normally the life of the project is more than your PPA life. So if there is a possibility of extension also, so then the pricing will be, what will be the pricing? This is very important for this buyer. So now this lecture, I have taken both the perspective, like buyer's perspective and the seller perspective, because I feel as a regulator that any project which has a balance of interest between the seller and the buyer, and there is a win-win for both the parties, then only the project succeeds. Otherwise, if you take care of only one interest, suppose I am a purchaser, suppose I am a government institution, and I feel that, okay, the prices to the consumers matter me most, and there should be less than what is the market price. So it is quite possible then the seller may not be, interested in that kind of project, or if they have come, then also they are not, be happy, or they will not be succeed, or their sustainability is also affected. So in any situation, the win-win between both the parties better solution. So in that scenario, what I feel that we have to make a balanced approach. Like we should not see on one-sided. Suppose in a fixed price, the benefit is going to the seller, because seller has a cash flow stream which is constant. So they will be getting easily the financing from the financial institution. But from the buyer side, if you see, fixed is good if the market in the future is going to be upside. But if it is going to be downside, may be quite possible, because in the near future, if the economy of scale is going to this scale, like everyone is talking of the net zero, carbon, then it is quite possible the renewable energy may reach up to 100% or maybe near to that. But in that scenario, naturally the prices may be linked to the market, and market prices may go down. So it is quite possible the buyer in that situation may not be very, very comfortable. So that, that situation has to be examined. The second is the power generation and pricing. Power generation means how much they generate and what capacity you have taken from them. It is quite possible you will be more happy if you go for 100% tie-up. But yes, it depends, because in India we have the capacity, okay, up to 90% you can have, 10% they can sell it to the market, and this depends upon the seller. If the prices in the market is good, so they will go for either short-term PPA or medium-term PPA. Short-term PPA may be up to 1 year, or medium term may be up to 3 years, and if it is more than that, then it will be called long term. So long term, otherwise all the PPAs I have gone through, it is not less than 15 years or so, maybe 25 years. In recent times, we all have 25-year PPA, but now it is coming that, okay, 15 years to 20 years is good, because most of the funding is done for 10 years. So if you have a funding arrangement for 10 years, naturally the next 10 years will be more, comfortable for the seller. So 10 years should not be foreseen, now forego. So you have a comfortable period of 20 years. But it depends upon the market financing of what time it gives for the loan period. Then pricing is very important. Now pricing, as I told you, pricing is very important. I have tried to take few slides for the pricing, and I will explain that the fixed price and the floating price, so it is a little benefited to you. Then compliance, ownership is a state ownership or a private ownership, it depends, because nowadays PPP is very popular, and in PPP lot of risk and benefits are shared between both the parties. So it is, I think, in near future we are going to the PPP projects. So compliance with the renewable power standards, it is very important, because in India we have the RPO kind of situation, renewable purchase obligation, but in other countries also, I think there will be a kind of compliance for the renewable power standards. Access and connectivity is very, very important, because where you have located this plant, the connectivity to the substation or connectivity to the nearest grid is very important, because the cost up to the point of the connection of your transmission company, this has to be borne by the seller. So if it is nearby, then the cost will be not be much, but if it is long way, then there is a possibility of way to, right of way is also a problem in India, and maybe in your country also, because right of way is not easily accessible. This needs the transmission lines of maybe more than 66 kV or so, maybe 132 kV or 220 kV, because power is mostly, from, if there is a park kind of situation, then this is 132 kV. If it is only standalone power project, it may be 66 kV or so, because it depends upon the capacity of the plant. If plant is not more than 25 megawatt or 30 megawatt, then the connectivity is not an issue. But yes, if it is a huge project, then there is a connectivity issue. So this is also key element of the RPPA. Who will bear the cost? And in the situation of non-functional of that line, who will bear the payment of this energy? And if the energy is not produced, who will be liable for the loss to the seller? Now, this RPPA legality is all, as I told you, there's force majeure and change of law is very important clauses in the terms of PPA, green attributes, environment credits, and tax duty responsibility. Tax is also very important, because all the taxes are being made pass through in the PPA kind of situation. So PPA for different renewables, yes, I have taken up that, okay, other than PPA, there are many more contract to be done by the seller, which has an implication of on your power purchase agreement. Because suppose land use, like suppose there is agricultural land, and if you are putting a plant on the agricultural land, then you have to take a government clearance that, okay, this plant is used for commercial purpose, and this land is used for the commercial purpose. So land use title is very important, which takes a lot of time. So suppose if you have a PPA where cutoff date is started, so within 30 days, there are subsequent events. Now, in that subsequent event, if permission for land use is not granted, then there is a possibility for delay in that project. And in the delay of the project, there will be two possibilities that, okay, the RPO of the buyer will be affected, he will be penalized. So there is a liability. So they will definitely put that clause in their PPA that, okay, that liability has to be shifted to the seller, because this is because of the seller. Because here seller is not so responsible, because land use depends upon the government. So there is a possibility that this risk has to be shared to both the parties. So this kind of situation can also be considered, because this is also connected with the RPPA. Now, interconnection is also an agreement. Interconnection agreement is between the transmission company and the generator. So if the generator has a valid, interconnection agreement, we call it transmission supply agreement, TSA. Now, if TSA is not happened, or because of some conditions that line could not be erected, then also your PPA will be affected. So this is also important. Ancillary services also important, because in India now the ancillary services are becoming day of the this thing. So ancillary service, if your plant is for the ancillary services, then there is also a market, and you lose that market if you do not happen PPA in time. Then equipment supplier is very important. If there is not a contract of EPC, with the buyer, with the seller, then also there is a kind of situation where the defaults can take place in the agreements. Then operation of the plant is very important, because the performance or the capacity which you have, which you have covered in the PPA, if it is not fulfilled, then there is a possibility that there are some defaults kind of thing, penalties will be there. So operation is to be looked after by some technical experts. Okay, what kind of specification that machine has, like suppose a wind machine we are going for, what diameter of a blade, or what kind of wind specifications are there, up to what speed they can generate, what are the critical coefficient of efficiency. So these kind of things have to be first examined, and see that the PPA should not be affected by any default in the operation of that plant. Then lot of permits has to be taken, like some I have told you, land purchase, then land transfer, then land uses. Then there are so many permits. Even if it is coming under the forest, suppose if it is coming under the forest, then you need the permission from the forest department. Okay, I have to create a line, so we have to cut the this thing tree. So there are so many things. Then finally, the strategy of negotiation. So these three things are very important. Number one, your PPA with what kind of technology you are having. Number two, other contracts. And the third is how you negotiate. So for risk analysis, I have tried to read about the SAARC countries. Now, construction risk. There are construction risk is very important. I have told you, risk related to increase in overall financing costs due to construction related issues, especially due to delay in construction due to permitting. Because as I told you, if permission is not given you, you cannot start construction, and that will also affect the project deadlines. Land acquisition issues. If land is not acquisition is made in time, then also it is a situation that there is a default in the PPA. Transmission evacuation is very important. Curtailment issue. Curtailment issue is that, okay, when there is a high wind and there is no demand in the grid, then this operator, the system operator, will tell you that, okay, you have to stop this. So in that situation, whether there is any curtailment compensation is there or not. So this kind of situation can be handled while you negotiate a PPA. Now, contract enforceability risk. Drastic reduction in the cost of solar power generation may result in poor, what happened that in the initial term, we have very long PPAs with the very high price of solar power. And now what happened, the solar power generation is so common in India that prices are reduced up to 2 rupee 50 paise or so, while our old PPAs are at 12 rupees and 10 rupees. So some of the state governments have, defaulted in that PPAs, and they have not allowed that. So that went to the court, but this is the legal, issue which is not to be taken right now, but there is an enforceability risk. So that risk has to be covered. How this risk to be covered between the party, it should be made clear while you execute a PPA. So other lack of trusted intermediary. Yeah, as I told you, there are maybe some investors which may not be, have trust in your this thing. That will also, because credit worthiness of a seller is very important in the financial market. So that is also an issue. When you go for a PPA, you have to check that what is the past background of that investor, or what is the past background of that company which are going for the PPA. So this kind of situation we have to handle. Then limited understanding of the sector. Many investors are not aware of the renewable energy sector and therefore prefer to invest in mainstream asset classes. So this is also important that in SAARC countries, the investment in the renewable energy is not very common. But yes, if you make them aware that kind of return on it, because this is a 100% cash inflow for long life, maybe 25 years or more, without any increment of the cost in the fuel. So this is a zero variable cost energy, where only the capital is once in lifetime is put, and the benefit is coming for full life cycle. So then the regulatory policy risk, there is a regulations. Regulations are also being dynamic. From time to time, the regulator used to change its regulations. So this kind of risk is also always there. So you have to cover that, but it's very difficult because regulatory risk is also very important risk in the present market. Then net metering policy is also coming, because a lot of projects which are using the grid energy as well as your own energy, then there is a possibility of net metering. Net metering means whatever energy you have used, that will only be billed. Rest you will not be like solar rooftop. So that net metering is also a issue in India. So terms, as I told you, terms, most of the PPAs are 20 years, but it depends. It can be 15 to 25 years, legal binding, end date. This is all, I think, common. I have already covered it. Let's move on the pre-commercial operation obligation. Now, what are the important milestones by a EPC contract? Because once you have a PPA with a seller, they have a similar kind of agreement with the EPC contract. So mechanical completion is very important before the performance testing. Performance testing is important because that day you will start the commercial operation date, and from that date the seller is obligated to sell power to the buyer, and buyer will start payment. So COD is very important. So but COD starts after performance testing is satisfactory. Now, how you will be satisfied with the performance testing? It is also a question mark, because it has to be given in your agreement that okay, this kind of testing will be there, a format should be there, and there should be a checklist. So when this is done satisfactorily, then only you allow the COD dates. So the third is the provisional acceptance. Once you provisionally accept that COD, then within 30 days or 15 days, the final certificate will be issued that okay, this plant is technically suitable as per for the standards which have specified in the contract. So suppose my capacity of the machine is 100 megawatt. So I have to prove that this machine generates 100 megawatt, and then that situation, the performance testing is tested for 4 hours or 5 hours, but finally the provisional acceptance will be done, but the final certificate will only be issued when the testing is completed. Means the full period when the performance is done and you have proved that your plant is ready to run at 100 megawatt, then only commercial operation date will start. So then construction related issues I have already covered. So let us move on this. So let me go for the pricing, because I think pricing will be more important. Post-commercial operation, transmission issues are important part of our PPAs. As I told you that after commercial operation, the evacuation of the energy is done. And when the evacuation of the energy is done, the delivery point is very important, and the metering at that point of time, and then records. Because with the records of the metering, the payment starts. So it is the responsibility of the seller to put a meter which is compliant to the energy standard of that country. Like in India, we have a grid code, we have a CA, Central Electricity Authority. They have a metering code. So our meters, or the meters for for the buyer and seller, is very important point, where all the records of the delivery will be considered, and payment will be made only after satisfactory validation by the system operator, because system operator also play an important role here. All the energy from any plant, maybe it is renewable or conventional, it is scheduled. First you have to give your schedule to the operator, and then you have to dispatch it. Suppose there is a deviation between schedule and dispatch, then your payment will be made only on schedule. But if there is a variation in dispatch and delivery and schedule, then there is a penalty, and that penalty is connected with your market price. And that is very important, that okay, all the renewable energy has to do two things. One is to make the schedule, and that schedule can only be made only on the very good method of forecasting. For a renewable energy project, forecasting is very important. And for forecasting, you need a lot of data. And that data is not available in some, I am not sure that what SAR countries are doing. But yes, this is the point of concern in Indian context. Because in India, we are dependent upon the foreign agencies. The foreign agency, they have their satellite images and they have weather forecasting. Some Indian agencies are also started doing this kind of thing, but till date we are also dependent on the foreign agencies. So if you have right kind of data, then only your forecast will be good and your scheduling will be better. So that is very important. Schedule and dispatch is a regulation driven thing. If you have a regulation in your country, then the renewable energy project has to follow it, and this should be considered as a part of your RPPA. So this kind of situation is also post commercial operation. Then commissioning process, seller to demonstrate to the purchaser, as I've told you, they have completed. This is all pre-financing thing. So this is not very important. Curtailment is critical. This following consideration are always included. Most RPPAs require that the seller deliver and sell to the purchaser all the RE electricity generated by the facility. Time when the purchaser, transmission owner or transmission system operator may mandatorily curtail the electricity production from the RE facilities because of constraint on the system, emergency or other reasons, PPA to address. Curtailment can also be for the convenience of the purchaser and best manage its available energy supply. During negotiation of the RPA, the parties must decide who will bear the financial risk. So the risk matrix is very important. How you allocate your risk, that is the art of a PPA, and that we have to understand. So curtailment is very common thing. Most of the these renewable energy projects are got curtailed because of the fact that there some part is that they are very expensive. Suppose the old PPAs in your country and in our country have expensive power at that point of time, because then at that point of time the wind energy was about 4 to 5 rupees and solar was about 10 rupees. So in that situation, if you curtail that, then this is also a concern for the seller. So in future, if you want to remove this kind of situation, you have to sit together with the buyer and then make out some certain provision where there is a win-win for both the parties. Sale or purchase of energy, I will leave it, and then energy pricing. Energy pricing is important, which I wanted to cover. Yeah.
Sir, apologies for interrupting you right now.
Yeah.
I was of the view that if we can take some questions, because I can see some hand raising. If that convenes for you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay. So I think I can see Mr. Irfan Lodi. Please, if you can unmute yourself and ask a question. Please, audience, kindly keep your question brief, and to the point, please. Go ahead. So, okay, so we have Mr. Ibrar Malik.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm Abrar Malik, Joint Director, Hydropower and Private Power Infrastructure Board of Power Division, Government of Pakistan. I have simple one thought to discuss to get your views on the thought that you mentioned, shifting from fixed PPA to floating and virtual PPA. So my point with respect to solar is, may we have the room to absorb a kind of variable RPPAs, because the solar technology is improving in both senses, lowering of price as well as improving its efficiency output. So for a term of PPA for 20 years on average, after 10 years, the technology might have improved a lot and price have lowered. So how do you think to go for this variable factor, both sides, variable in financing as well as energy output? How do you see this?
As I told you initially, the renewable energy was taken as a government, phenomenon. Like this is the job of the government to promote the renewable energy. So all the state discoms were having long-term PPA, because at that time technology was not so, understood. And you must be remembering that in India and in your country also, we were dependent on feed-in tariff, which we call a preferential tariff. As a regulator, I also did the same thing, because without knowing the technology and the cost of that technology, we are giving them a preferential kind of treatment to this technology to take on or to pick up. But in scenario of today's, when we see that okay, renewable energy is good, it is good because of the fact that has no carbon. The second aspect is it is very cheap. Only issue is the variability. Now, suppose, so why I have taken this stand that, okay, fixed cost is, suppose if I fix today, it may be, suppose 2 rupees 50 paise, or maybe so in your country, I don't know what is there. But now suppose in future, if this is going to be less than 2 rupees, then in that scenario, we can do different kind of situation like a hybrid PPA. It is better to go for a hybrid PPA where your fixed component is also taken and floating component is also taken. Now, like you make the investments, you take your personal thing. I make investments mostly in the risk-free, like in the banks, and then fixed deposits, and some portion of the our investment is made in the equity, which is very risky, where the gains are also high, but the losses are also there. So in that situation, why not we can have a PPA of hybrid nature? Like suppose if I tell you that, okay, 70% of your energy should be fixed in rate. Like you fix the rate, okay, 2 rupee 50 paise for 25 years. But after 10 years, this will be flexible to the floating, that 30% only, not all. 30% can be linked to the market, where the market floating rate will decide your rate. And we can also go for capping, like I have said, collars, the new term which we have understood when I started, reading this. So I read about the collars. Collars mean nothing. It is a kind of floor and cap. Means you have to fix a bottom line and an upper line. That is the cap. In between, the market will float. So if there is more than that, then there is a cap. We will not go for beyond that. So in both situations, the investor as well as your supplier and the distribution company or the buyer will be in comfortable situation. So that is my idea. I'm not expert on it, but yes, this is my observation after reading so much things on renewable energy. Yes, any other question? Or I am able to reply you, Mr. Mohammed?
Yes, almost.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Yes, Mr. Pavan Das. You wanted to say this, Mr.
Thank
Pavan
you,
Das?
sir.
Yeah.
I have just now I have studied your presentation. I want to ask something. If price is fixed in the PPA, and if the price is increasing, and sometimes the price is decreasing, let's say if 1 unit price is 10 rupees in the contract, which is fixed. If price is 11 rupees, so 1 rupee, who will bear? Again, if price is 9 rupees, that means 1 rupee is decrease. So who will bear? As you earlier, as seller will bear the less amount, I mean decrease amount, or buyer will bear the.
Actually, what's happened? I have stopped in between. I have not taken up the pricing, content in my presentation. But I will tell you that fixed price is fixed in nature. Then there is, there is a fixed liability on the seller. So on the buyer, means the buyer will have to pay this, whether the market is cheaper or market is means expensive. They have to bear it. There is no relax. But if it is a floating, then your prices are depending upon the market. But there is a mix of that. Means there is a ceiling cap, there is a floor. Means I have strike with a cost of 10 rupees, suppose, and the market is now 11 rupees. So then 1 rupee is actually expensive. I have to pay only 10 rupees to the seller. So we are comfortable. But if you go for the floating, then that loss will also be yours and benefit will be yours. So there is a risk management. And if you are comfortable, suppose today's situation, I told you that I feel personally that in SAR countries or maybe in other countries also, the solar price will go further down. So in that situation, floating is better. But suppose if you take 10-year back, last prior to 10 years, the technology was not so inferior, so superior, and the prices were going up. So it is better to go for fixed price. Yes, But in that situation, you go for a minimum period contract, like you take contract for 5 year or 10 year. But it depends upon your country, because in your country, if the financial institutions are not ready to pay to the investor, to that developer the loans, then there is a problem, because these loans are always given to those PPA who have a long power purchase agreement. So for that is our history, and that history. But it is a regulated market. Like in Europe and America, most of the market is now deregulated. Their prices are determined by the market itself. That is not a fixed nature. You have to come to the market, you have to bid in the market, and if there is demand, then your price. If there is more demand than supply, then price will be high. If there are more supply and your demand is low, then there is a lower price. So what happened in these developed countries, they have more capacity to serve than they actually serving. So naturally there is a surplus kind of situation. So market is good. So their market is good. So this kind of experiments are being done in Europe and USA, but not in SAR countries. SAR countries, even today also, we have limited capacity. Our demand is also constrained. We don't supply to all areas in our country. So in near future, our demand will also increase. Similarly, we have to increase our capacity. So we are not in a surplus situation. We can say that, okay, we are surplus, but I am sure that this is not surplus, because most of the people in our country, either their power consumption is very low. If you compare your national standards, our standard is only in India 1,000 units, while USA 30,000. You compare that lifestyle. So that situation, maybe we will take time. It will take time. So in that scenario, fixed contract is good. But yes, if you go for hybrid, you can tackle 30% of that. Okay, 40%, depending upon your capacity to take the risk. You can go for floating kind of situation where the market benefit and losing both you will bear. So that is very important to understand.
So I truly agree
Yes.
with you, and thank you so much for addressing this question. I hope now we can take another question quickly, and the rest of the questions we'll take afterwards. Allow Mr. Faisal to please unmute yourself and give us, please speak on the if you have any question about.
Thank you, Ali. Thank you, Professor Kumar. It's a good presentation, and I think we all have a number of questions because it's a very important topic. The PPAs, which is the backbone of any projects, and number of questions. But I would not take a longer time. Just a small question that in Pakistan we are still on. Our model is still based on the government guarantees. The implementation agreement, we provide implementation agreements, we provide government guarantees, we provide certain assurances to the sponsors, and then they invest in the sector. So since you have much bigger market than Pakistan, a much bigger size, and your evolution is relatively faster than Pakistan. We have 40,000 megawatts, and you might have 400,000 megawatts, and a larger share of renewable energy. So do you have still some backup government guarantees to for the payment and performance obligation of some of the power purchaser, because you have a mix of the sector, some were state-owned companies, some were private. So do you have still a government guarantees and the implementation agreement set up?
No, I think we have crossed that state. We have, I would like to speak on it, because what happened, as I told you, India is a very big country. There are a number of states. Some states are having, not so economic good conditions, but some are good conditions. Like Gujarat, where I am working, this is a very good state where no such guarantee is there. Business is now being taken over by the utility itself. There is no bank guarantee kind of thing. There is no guarantee from the state government. There is no payment guarantee. But yes, there is a default in payment. I am, I am of that experience that, okay, in India, 30-40% states are paying like Gujarat. Gujarat is because this is a subject which is connected with your DISCOM health, because all the energies is being bought by the DISCOMs. Now, DISCOM health is very important. If they are not in loss, or if they are in loss, then there is a support from the government as a guarantee. And otherwise the reforms, as reform is also taken place in, I think, in Pakistan for the last 20 years. Because Pakistan is not well behind India. It's not so. Pakistan Regulatory Commission, I remember, it is, I think, as old as our Regulatory Commission. But yes, I can say that government guarantees are not given here. Only government guarantees are given to those technologies which are not, accepted till date, like waste to energy. Waste to energy, we are giving some kind of support from the government. We call it venture capital funding. Like suppose some funding is to be provided by the government, but solar and wind is totally free. There is no subsidy. Subsidy we are providing only, or we can say guarantee from the government is only providing to those areas which are either for the poor or for the common man. Otherwise, there is no kind of subsidy mechanism here in India. Most of the states have done away with this counter guarantee things. Counter guarantee is not the state, because the reforms has taken place about 20 years back here. And most of the utilities are not taken up by the government. They are company. Now their profit and loss is their headache. So if they don't have the capacity to pay to the investor, then investment is not taking place. This is the hard fact. In some states of India, investors are shying away. They don't want to go there because there is no guarantee even, and they don't have the capacity to pay. So what I feel as a regulator, everywhere I used to tell that you are talking of the good technology. It is good. Renewable energy is very good because you will have no carbon. But at the same time, your DISCOM should be healthy, because who will buy this? Who will buy this power? Because the market is still regulated. You cannot take your own power. You have to buy power from your utility. You can buy from outside if you are a big consumer, like industry. Okay, there is an open access. You can buy it. But till date, that is not very, popular in India itself. Open access is not very popular. It is there. The provision in the law is there. But still there are a lot of charges which have to be bear by the open access consumer. Means if you buy power not from the utility but from the outside, maybe some renewable energy, then also you have to pay half of that cost. Means utilities half of that cost as a cross subsidy surcharge or your additional surcharge. So that is not very popular. But yes, government has taken all these hands away. They are only providing subsidy to those areas which are either new in technology, like waste to energy. Waste to energy in India is picking up very fast. We have a lot of projects coming in Gujarat, where the government has funded about maybe 20 to 30% of that cost as a venture capital funding, or in the part of tariff also. Their tariff is 7 rupees, but the consumers are paying 5 rupees. 2 rupees is being funded by the government. So, but that is only for waste to energy, because that is also very good. Waste to energy is also a very good project. It is a waste management. Your city will clean. The second thing is that you will generate electricity out of it. Maybe not to biggest this thing extent, but to some extent. 5 megawatt, 10 megawatt potential. Our Gujarat state has a 100 megawatt potential. So we have already done 60 megawatt projects. There are 60 megawatt projects will come here. That will clean our city also. And it is also there that they will not pollute the atmosphere, because then there is a pollution, restriction that you cannot, because you are burning the waste. So there is a chances that the carbon dioxide will be there. So, but to restrict that, there are certain regulations.
Yeah. And then my second question is related to renewable purchase obligations. So you have some renewable purchase obligations, and if some of the DISCOM don't purchase the fixed percentage of renewable, then how it's compensated? It's through some financial arrangements, or they buy some credit? Because can you please explain it? And secondly, because you don't have government guarantees, you don't have implementation agreement, then the projects which are built on BOOT basis, at the end of term, to which entity these projects are transferred? To your DISCOs or some other government entity?
Actually, what happened, that to put up a renewable energy project in India, first thing is that they have to get an PPA, because as I told you, without PPA there is no funding. If they have a corporate PPA, they have to show it to the financial. So the PPA is must. Now, if there is a PPA, it means there is a buying arrangement. Now, if there is a buying arrangement, so there is a possibility that there is a default. In that situation, the dispute will come. Now, what happened? Suppose regulator has specified the renewable purchase obligation. Means to fulfill that criteria, the licensee or the corporate, they have made an arrangement of buying. Now, suppose due to unhealthy condition of that, and if they don't buy that, or if that plant has not come and they are defaulting at their RPO, then there is a penalty. There is a penalty. Now, some of the states have done away with the, you can say, carry forward mechanism. Now, what is carry forward? Carry forward means, suppose today I have to commit 10% of RPO, but we have done only 9%. So 1% there is a default. So straightforward, you have to put a penalty on them. But yes, because of this, these things are very new to the India. This started, I think, 10 years back. So the commission or the regulatory body has taken a stand that, okay, we will allow the carry forward for 1 year only, not more than 1 year. In next 1 year, you have to, commit that purchase. If you don't do it, then there is a severe penalty. That penalty is equal to the cost of conventional power. Like suppose if you not buy 100 million unit of renewable energy, then you have to pay 100 million unit of that corresponding to the average cost of power purchase of that state. Like suppose in Gujarat, the average cost of power is 4 rupee 50 paise. So I will charge them the default amount multiplied by 4 rupee 50 paise. So to avoid that, they go for purchase of REC. Because either you have to complete RPO through the purchase of actual energy, but if you don't buy actual energy because you don't have money to pay back, so you can go for REC. The same amount of green component, you can buy it from the trading, which is very cheap, 1 rupee only. So instead of buying 5 rupees or 7 rupees energy from the renewable sources, you can buy 1 rupee green component. So the green component money will be transferred to that developer. So that kind of arrangements are also there. Yes, it is a good question. Yes, we have to see that because of, as I told you, if there is default, then it is possibility that difficulty will be there. Investor will also, will be affected.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for addressing the questions. But I can see some more hand raising here. Mr. Irfan Lodi, Umar Kasmi, and Ebrar Malik will be taking your questions right after once the presentation will end. Sir, may I request you to kindly, if you can pursue or complete your presentation first.
So, can I go beyond that?
Yes, sir. You can resume your presentation now.
Because you have fixed the time for 1 hour.
Yes, exactly. I mean, if you can, you can, yes, you can just quickly complete your presentation, and
sure.
And afterwards we can have take some more questions from participants.
Okay, no problem. Otherwise, I think tomorrow there is also a program, or day after tomorrow. Tomorrow, I think tomorrow. Okay, let me again. Presentation is shared.
Yes, it's visible.
Is it visible? Okay, let me go to the presentation. So energy pricing is very important. So because of that, I will try to give you some, pricing structure. Because some of the question was related with the pricing structure. In India, as I told you, or in SAARC countries, it is an illiquid market. Means we don't have a market for renewable energy. We have started in India, but the virtual. And in fiscal PPA, fixed price, which is fully fixed. There are different type of fixed price. Fully fixed means for full period, and the price is fixed, one price only. Then fixed with escalation. The price can be given with the escalation, means first year will be fixed, second year will be with escalation factor. Suppose there is a inflation of 4% every year. So we can say that, okay, to meet the escalation, or we can have some kind of efficiency improvement also, that okay, there should be some efficiency. So suppose if I fix the price with 3% escalation every year, means every year the price of the electricity will be increased by 3%. So this is also common in India. It happened in India, but nowadays we are following fixed price only. Now fixed with escalation index. What is escalation index? Escalation index is an index which is given by a certain public sector institution. Like here, Central Electricity Authority or some authority give the in escalation factor. Like suppose our central regulator used to give every quarterly the fixed escalation factor. So this factor is also related to the market with the capital cost of funding, weighted average cost of funding. So it may be 6% or 7%. So this has to be seen that, okay, this escalation index, if we link our price of the electricity with the escalation index, then also this can be done. So this kind of a structure can also be done. Then floor, cap and collars. So what is this? This is a kind of when we fix it, but with a floor. That okay, we will say that market price, it will be a market price, but with a cap and collar. Collar means both sides, the bottom side and upper side. There will be a range. So if your market price move in that range, then we can say that okay, that price is applicable to you. But if you go beyond that cap or below that floor, then we say that okay, this is not been paid by the buyer. So buyer is comfortable with only a range of prices, but with the market trend. So this is also good if your market is going downside. Means in the future, if you feel that your market or renewable energy is going downward, then you can go for this kind of rates. But as I told you, virtual PPA are not common here, where there is a reverse collar exclusive. Reverse collars is nothing, but if it is beyond, if it is above floor, then it is paid. If it goes below the floor, this is not paid by the buyer. So this is also minimum floor will be there, but there will be a range of upper and minimum. Then floating, as I told you, floating can be discounted also. It depends what kind of floating means. It depends upon the market. You can give the market rate. You can give the discount rate. Means you can say that okay, I will charge 1% lower than the market rate. This is your just to get into the market, just to make your market. The seller can say that okay, I will give you discount 1%, but that has to be considered by the seller and buyer also, because market is very fluctuating. Like in India, there is no market of this kind. We have an exchange where only 5% or 3% of energy, total energy, is being traded. So it is not a full-fledged market. We cannot say it is a perfect market. The buyers and sellers are there, but the market is not perfect because it is only held up by 5% of that energy. So the supplying and buyers have limited, power to draw. So we cannot say that that is a perfect market, and most of the market is regulated. So floating PPAs are not here. Then I have, as I told you, hybrid kind of situation can be there, where it can depend upon percentage of output or overtime. Means percentage of output means 60% and 40%. We can say 60% fixed, 40% floating. So you will get the benefit of 60%, and your investor will be comfortable that okay, 60% is fixed. So at least we are comfortable with fixed revenue stream, and 40% is for gaming, means for playing with the market. This is also a good situation. The overtime hybrid is that a combination of fixed and floating structure are determined by a set of number of years. So they can say that okay, if I have a 10-year PPA, first 4 year will be fixed rate and 6 years will be floating. So only floating will be there. So it depends upon the buyer that what kind of arrangement they want. But it is all good when the market is deregulated. Then there is a mechanism of clawback. Clawback is nothing, but it is also that kind of situation where there is a, if you have paid, suppose market is down, market is below the floor. So that benefit is being given to the seller. Seller is getting that benefit because buyer is paying the floor price, but the market is below that. So that cushion the seller is keeping with him. So clawback means, suppose after some time the market is above that floor, so that clawback money is to be adjusted with the buyer revenue stream. So that is also a kind of, so these are the actually pricing structure which is not very common clawback and this thing, and this is all going in the European, this floating market and hybrid kind of thing, but not very popular. 70% of the PPAs are being done on the fixed price, as I have read. Now I have told you that there may be innovative contract. This is all, as I told you earlier also, to mitigate your risk. There is collar sets the upper and lower bounds on buyers' exposure to energy market fluctuation while ensuring strong and stable revenue for the project owner. Means there is a range where lower and upper ceiling is fixed, and in between the market rate is given to the seller. So if there is a future market is good, if you feel that okay, future market will good, then only this this will function. Otherwise, if future market is below that floor price, then the floor price will be a range. Means the seller will be comfortable with the floor rates. A collar requires a project to assume more wholesale energy price risk. Means the project has to assume more wholesale price risk than in traditional PPA. Naturally, it is more risky because risk is more. The profit may be there, but risk is more. So it depends upon the market. If it is upside, then the prices will be good. But when it is lower, then the loss will be of seller. So this is a diagram which I have taken from the state that there are collars. Means if you see the left diagram, this is for the seller. Now seller is, if we go for fixed rate, typical seller PPA is the straight that dotted line, means fixed stream of layer. But the market price is moving upward. Sometime it is below that and sometime it is up that. So it means that the seller is taking the advantage of the more revenue or less revenue than what is the traditional PPA has. But the buyer is comfortable with the collar mechanism. Means they have a collar. Blue, you see the blue collar, there is a cap, the upper cap and the lower cap. And in between, if this is trend with the market. So, but if the market is more expensive, then it is capped at the upper level. And if it is market is going down, then seller is also comfortable with the cap, with the floor price. So this is the collar mechanism, which I wanted to tell you that this is the innovative method, and maybe sometime happen in your country and my country. Seller risk mitigation tax equity may require a higher. This is also a benefit. In India, suppose most of the projects of renewable energy, even for waste to energy projects also, we are giving a tax benefit. Like 10-year tax benefit are given to them if they are going for those areas which are still not developed. So the government is providing them tax equity benefit that okay, that is also a kind of risk mitigation. That benefit is going to the investor. Additional instrument can be used to address downside risk, but may not be available for full-time PPA. It depends upon regulation and government rules. Project owners may ultimately be a downside risk below the floor if sufficiently motivated by project economics. Buyer risk mitigation, how they will mitigate the buyer risk? Appropriately balanced collar. As I told you, there should be an appropriate balanced collar. This collar is to be determined by the buyer, professionals, that okay, what kind of risk they are taking and what type of benefit that the project will have. So credit support provision, once PP is executed, that credit support is not available. Maybe not in India, because now there is no such. This wind and solar are quite a popular projects in India, and they are now going for competitive bidding. There is no such price determined mechanism. One has to compete in the bid. So what are the power producer consideration? Like they need financing. So size of power producer is very important. Then industry structure is very important, whether there are competition or not. If there is more competition, then naturally your market is very tight, and you have to see that in what way you will be benefited. level of vertical integration. There are some, producer who have the retail arm also. Suppose, for example, I tell you, a distributor can go for generation from renewable energy, and that if he go for some PPA, then floating point structure is good because they will be benefited for passing on the difference of that cost if the market is not favorable. So if you have a retail arm, like suppose if you have a export zone. Now in an export zone, you are the distributor. You are supplying energy to only limited industries. And if you put your renewable energy plant and go for the PPA, or you go for the PPA with others also, then also there is a possibility that you can pass on the risk to the consumers. Because if there is any fluctuation in the market and the price is fluctuated, retail tariff can also be tampered with. Retail tariff in India is also having fuel surcharge and market, exposure. So this can be good for those who have a retail this thing. Then terms and output is also very important. Then buyer concern is that they can, if they are an energy intensive project, yes, they go for this kind of thing, because most of the industry, energy intensive industries, they need fixed price. But floating agreement is good for those who see that market is downside. If they say that okay, market is downside, then floating is good. Volume contracted, larger projects are good. They can get the benefit of economy of scale. Percentage of electricity contracted. This depends upon the regulations. That if they do not have 100% allocation, then you can go for 95%. Then industry structure, credit standing, end user proximity. So you can read this thing because I am transferring this PPA to you, this presentation to you, and you can go through it. Metering is also very important part of it. I have already explained to you that metering has to meet the standard of your country. It has to be maintained and tested as per your standards of your country. Here in CA has specified the regulation. That regulation is very, consolidated and comprehensive, and all the utilities and the, investors, they need to provide availability based tariff parameters in that meter, and that meters has to be a smart meter which can be read from a remote place and can be downloaded all the information. So this is all. I think nothing. I think you can read that telemetry, everything here. Default and termination is also very important, but I think it is to be read, and we can take up some of the question in another class if it is not possible for you.
No, sir.
Yes.
Perhaps I would like to take some questions before we go to the break. And for the, I think because you also have another session, so perhaps we can cover some of the aspects in as well, right? Yeah. So, so I would like to request the participants, please feel free to ask any question. The floor is open. If you have any, anyone is coming up with questions, Mr. Abrar Malik, please.
Yes, please. Thank you very much. This is a wonderful presentation and insight about the power sector, especially of India. I just have two small questions. One is very straight. Is there any consumer end tariff fixed for all parts of the India, or it is different from state to state? Number two, since we know that solar and wind are coming up heavily in the power sector, and they have advantage of lower tariff generation and buying and selling. So how India is accommodating sale and purchase of hydropower projects? Is there any upfront support in development of hydropower projects in India in the scenario of renewable energy projects?
Okay. For renewable energy, actually, for renewable energy, we have a separate ministry in India. Mostly in other countries, I find that there is only one ministry, power ministry, who is, responsible for power and renewable. But here in India, it is special. Renewable energy is dealt with by a separate ministry. So they have a separate rules and regulation. So the hydro projects up to 25 megawatt is coming under the renewable. Okay. The hydro stations over 25 megawatt is, yes, it is a renewable kind of thing, but till date, the scheme or the incentive or the rules and regulation applies on a renewable energy project is limited to 25 megawatt. Okay. Now the first question you have asked that India, when the Constitution of India was done in 1948, then the power was taken as a subject of concurrent list. Means it is a subject which is to be dealt with by the state government as well as by the central government. So both have the power to make their own rules. So it is quite possible that some states have different regulations. Not all. I'm not saying that overall in India, you have to be consistent with the central law. So most of the states are doing the same thing, but few may be different, but to some extent, not to a large extent. So this is one answer that, okay, all states not have same regulation. They have different regulators, so their regulations are different, but to some extent, we are to be guided by the central law policies. So most, suppose I can say that 95% are uniform. Okay, 5% are varied. So this is not huge. Suppose there is a RPO. RPO is not same for everyone. Every state has a different RPO. Like, but there is a minimum benchmark. Like I told you, 17%. Mine is 17%, so okay. 17% to 16% हो सकता है, even 17, 18 हो सकता है. Not big difference, but yes, too near that. But now Government of India is thinking that okay, the RPO is decided by them only, so that it will be a uniform thing. So that decision can also be taken when central government say that okay, this is to be uniform for everyone. Suppose renewable energy is a priority area. Okay, now the development of the renewable energy is to be uniform all over the country. There is no two set of rules because this will give more comfort to the investors. Because one investor is suppose coming to Gujarat. So why to Gujarat only? Why not to Maharashtra? Or why not to, some other states? Because the rules of Gujarat may be more favorable to them. So this is different. Now this can be done. But overall, the difference is not much. But I will tell you one thing with my experience that those states where DISCOM is good, means those who have profit making DISCOMs, their investment is coming in a more way. More means more size. Like the payment is certain. There is a guarantee of payment. But the states who are not performing well, their development is not taking place in that space, which is being done in more forward states. Okay.
Right. Thank you so
Yes.
much, sir. Quickly, I would like to take another question and from Mr. Muhammad Umar Kasmi. Sir, first of all, if you can kindly ask the question and then followed by Mr. Hafiz Muhammad Faisal. So, Muhammad Umar Kasmi.
Thank you, sir, for a detailed and elaborate presentation. I would like you to shed some light on the existing limitations in the PPA pertaining to force majeure events. Like what can be done to improve the current construction and financial risks for potential project developers, EPC contractors, and the respective governments? Because COVID-19 has been a real life example for us. So this was what would be a win-win situation for all stakeholders pertaining to force majeure.
Okay.
Yes. Sir,
Because-
can I quickly take another question and then we can answer together? Yes.
Okay. No,
Yes,
I think it is a very good question. And most of the, I think, countries are facing this. But here I will like to tell you, my experience that the Indian government has taken a stand that COVID situation, pandemic situation will be taken as a part of your force majeure. Means if you have the agreement to deal with the force majeure condition in your PPA, then it will be covered. Okay, so one thing is that pandemic is a part of force majeure. And now if your construction is, defaulted because of pandemic, and if they prove it to your satisfaction that, okay, it is because of COVID, then there is a comfort. Then that part of that year or that year may not be treated as it may be treated as a 0 year. Means you will be given one more extension, at least of that period, for that pandemic was, prevailed in that area. So in India, I think that is not a big question, because as a regulator, I also allowed many, developers who have defaulted on ground of only pandemic. So that was overlooked, and there was no financial, benefit or financial loss is being passed on any party. Means investor is also kept out of it, and the DISCOM is also given cushion to, carry forward their RPO, and they can, they cannot charge any penalty on the EPC contractor or so. But yes, they have to prove it. They have to prove it by way of either some kind of certificate issued by State Load Dispatch Center, or maybe it depends upon the regulator. But I, as a regulator, have allowed. That's not a question of, discussions, because this is also a very, situation which is very, I think, very alarming. Even when while making a regulation, new regulation, I also taken that provision in our, rules, that okay, in situation like pandemic, where, contract is not fulfilled, then you have to be a little, give that sympathy to the buyer or seller.
Okay, thank you, sir, for addressing this question. Last question, I would like to take very briefly from Mr. Mahesh. Mahesh, please, if you can ask your question, keep it short and to the point. Yes, Mr. Mahesh, please go ahead and ask the question.
So, okay, I think I am also getting message that, okay.
Okay, just a small question, sir. Just a small question.
Yeah.
Related to force majeure. I want to ask, right now you are saying about, since there's a pandemic, so force majeure, under force majeure event, some concessions may be given to the developer or even the contractor. In our case, we have a PPA. In there is a force majeure clause about the pandemic also. But
okay.
Yes, so now what is happening? Government may in this we have force majeure system of three. One is political force majeure event, other is change in law force majeure event, and third is other force majeure event. This pandemic comes under the other force majeure event. Other force majeure event. In this case,
not clearly mentioned. Yes,
it is not political force majeure, has a different treatment. Change in law has a different treatment, and other force majeure has a different treatment.
Yeah.
In others, normally in other force majeure event, payment is not made, because there's a loss of the contractor as well, of the company as well. Though only time can be given. Time, okay, it's late. Okay. We will not penalize for delay, and we will give you time as well. But some claims are being coming up. Okay. Yes. How you deal in your country issue like this?
Actually, sometime if you write more on the contract, then you are also bound to follow it. You have made it very clear that in other situation of the force majeure, you will not allow them the payment. But there will always be a dispute which can be addressed by the whatever you say, that dispute redressal agency, maybe the regulator or maybe some arbitrator. This can be looked after, because this is a very specific case where you are saying that, okay, you are from which country?
I am from Pakistan.
Okay, so it depends upon situation to situation, because your agreement has a provision that okay, for other force majeure you will provide only the time relaxation, but you will not pay to them for any liability accrued on account of time. You see, you have mentioned here. Now your contract is very clear but very tight. So now this is the risk. This risk is either to be taken up by the seller, or he can dispute it, because pandemic is a very extraordinary situation, which is accepted by all over the world. So I think you can test it with other countries' model. I'm not sure about it that okay, in this scenario, because you have contract is clear, you have mentioned it. Now in others, pandemic is coming, but pandemic can be taken up if your government wants it. It depends. So I'm not sure that about it. Since your contract is indicated it, then contract is a legal document. You cannot overlook it. The law will not allow you to do it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much from the audience. I know that there are a lot of questions. Perhaps, I mean, if these participants can write down those questions in the chat box, and we'll later on route these questions to our to Professor Anand, and you could surely address those questions later on, right? So, thank you so much for your time and for this wonderful presentation. This was indeed a great session, and especially I enjoyed it very much. So with this, we declare the first session closed, and we will be taking a short break of like 10 minutes, and we'll be back again then. Before going to the break, may I request all the participants that if they can quickly switch on their cameras for a moment, and we can have a sort of a group picture for today, and then we proceed towards the break. Sir, thank you once again for your time. And
thank you, Mohammed, and thank you everyone, because it is very interesting for me also.
Sir, I want to ask very simple question. Would you permit, sir? Last.
Yes.
So I think it would be better if we can connect to you after the session, because we have a lot of questions, and we already running short of time. I
yes, exactly.
raise my hand.
He will be coming back again. My request to you that he's coming back here again on day 4, sorry, day 3 and day 5. So that time you will have ample opportunity. And also, if you like, you can write an email. You can write the email to me or to Professor Dr. Qureshi, and we'll get him the response done. But otherwise, he will again come back. So let's not take too much of time, and maybe we go to the next time. Thank you.
Right, exactly. So please,
I am not the last word. I am not the last word. I am only, facilitating this. So I am happy to see that you are so, you're so inquisitive, and you are taking so much, interest in this. But it is good. Power sector is becoming a good subject nowadays. So those who are in power sector, and if they go for detailed, examination inside, the word is inside. You should have an insight in the power sector. Now the future will be yours.
So you can note how much following you have.
How much?
How much following you have.
So wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, may I request all to, if they can switch on their cameras, and you can have a group photo, and then go for a break, right? Please, everyone, please. So, can you stop sharing your screen, sir?
Professor Anand, you can unshare the screen, please.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Oh, so many participants,
right.
Huh?
Right, exactly. So, admin, if you can kindly take the screenshot of this of all the participants for day 2.
Done, sir.
Done. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, and stay tuned. I mean, once we are back, we'll be discussing on risk assessment and mitigation techniques for renewable energy projects. This is also another very interesting topic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
We'll be back after 10 minutes.
Okay, bye.